Friday. We are off work for the day finally. We are working on Bailey's truck. Last you guys knew, we were putting a 12 mil pump on this. He's already got it painted red, got it installed. No AFC housing at all. And we got this adjustable gear on it, but we were running into some problems where we were having to pull the harmonic balancer off and take a couple, we would basically just put a couple bolts in it and throw the harmonic balancer on it and start it and get it to where we wanted the timing. So very quickly, rather than spending the several $100s on a new front cover to have this adjustable takeoff piece, Bailey just made his own, being the savvy machinist that he is. We're going to be 5-speed swapping the truck. It may stretch out until tomorrow just because we're kind of waiting on parts, but we are going to be putting a 5-speed in this truck. So the automatic's already out. You guys know how to do that. You take the automatic transmission out, and I'm going to go over the things you guys need to do to put a 5-speed in the truck. So the first thing you're going to want to start with is taking the seats out. So you're gonna have to cut a hole in your floor for that shifter. So you need to take your seats out. He's already working on that. The next step, guys, you're gonna wanna pull, you get your seats out, and then you're gonna wanna pull the bolt out of this factory 4-wheel drive shifter. There's a 10 millimeter that hold it to the bracket underneath, and then it's an 8 millimeter to take the plastic off around it. So you need to get those popped off so that way you can, and then there's also the cup holder brackets. Is it 2 8s?
No.
What is it, Phillips?
Just popped in there.
Okay, that pops out, and then these are 2 Phillips screws. This pops out, and then we will have to pull the Phillips screws out of this trim. They're pretty crusty looking, so we'll see how this goes. And then we can pull the carpet back, and I have a template that I borrowed from a buddy to cut. I'm just gonna go ahead and go out on a limb and assume that any of you guys that are doing this 5-speed swap may or may not be watching this video solely for the reason that you want to know the location to cut the hole. Now, I used a white paint marker on this white floor, so it's not really working out that great. But I had a template, and it had these 2 bolt holes my buddy was willing to cut out of a floor of a truck he was parting out. So basically, I lined those up, those 2 little bolt holes, and was able to get my tracing mark. But yeah, I'll kind of hold the camera on this for a couple seconds so you guys can see where about the hole needs to be. It's kind of one of those things where I wouldn't be scared to just kind of cut a small hole, get it pretty close to get a carbide bit once you have the transmission in, and round it out to where everything fits. So that's the route I would go with it if I were you guys, your 5-speed swap in your truck. I'm not trying to be lazy, but I don't really want to sit here and measure all this out for you so you have exact dimensions. But you can definitely tell there with that hole where it needs to be. But yeah, now we're gonna take a grinder and just kind of cut like a square all the way around the inside of it, and then we'll take a carbide bit and make it smooth angle all the way around the edges. So yeah. The hole is pretty much done. Just gotta go around and do a little trimming to clean it up a little bit. He ended up just kind of at a diagonal slant. I'm sure everything will still clear and it'll be fine. Just go ahead and take like a piece of sandpaper or something. I'll grab him. Just kind of clean up those sharp edges so you don't cut yourself whenever you're going to install the shifter and the shift boot and everything like that. I'm gonna move on to, I'm gonna get the transmission ready and stuff like that. All right, guys, we got the hole cut. We are now going to install the transmission. Got to get it on the jack, strap it to the jack, and then stick it up in there. I already got the clutch installed. Obviously that is going to be the first step if you're going from a manual, or from an automatic, I'm sorry, to a manual. If you run a dual disc clutch, which you should, you are going to have to probably get a starter spacer if you do not already have a 6-speed that's going in the truck. I think I said that right, but the 6-speed flywheels require a starter spacer, which your automatic truck is not going to have. So make sure you have that before you try to 5-speed swap your truck in a weekend. If you go with a dual disc clutch. Now, if you go with a 5-speed clutch, you know, 5-speed flywheel with a small input shaft, you should be fine as far as I know. But if you go with a 6-speed style flywheel, you will need that starter spacer, and that'll leave you sitting in the dust. You ain't gonna be able to drive your truck. So you definitely need that. We got the hole cut. I'm gonna get the trans on a jack and stick it up. All right, guys, we got the Nv4500 all bolted up to the engine. I do recommend, if you guys do this at home, have yourself a good trans jack. I borrowed this from a buddy. I borrowed this thing probably more times than he's ever used it, so we will be getting one eventually for the pit, so I can just be standing up when I mess with these. With auto, it's not bad. With 2 guys, you can pretty much pull them out, slap them in by hand with a little assist of a jack. But with a Nv4500 or like Nv5600, you really need to have a trans jack. Our hole's cut almost perfect. Now all we gotta do is put the cross member back under this thing, hook the slave cylinder up, and before I can put the transfer case in, I will show you guys something. So this transfer case came out of my Ford. It has a big output shaft for a larger drive shaft. The yoke on this is larger than the one that is in Bailey's truck. Although, this is the transmission, the input shaft on these transfer cases will not interchange. So if you have a 5-speed truck and you buy just an NV4500 and you try to put your transfer case into it and you have a 47, it's not going to work. The input shaft is going to end up being a different size. So what we'll have to do, because I will have to retain the output shaft out of this transmission, and it's a one-piece, so anyone that knows anything about those know the one-piece are a lot stronger. I want to keep this for my Ford. We will have to split this apart. So we're going to split it apart, and we will show you guys how to change the input shafts in it. It's something that a lot of you guys doing these 5-speed swaps may run into. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the video at some point, and you guys will see how to do that. All right, guys, I got my little rolling cart here. I drilled some holes in, and I just put a catch pan down there to catch oil if I'm working on something and I was going to have fluid in it. This is kind of the best I got right now, so that's what I use. The first step to change these input shafts, you want to take all the bolts out of the transfer case and split it apart. It actually has to come out from the back side, so you have to push it out this way. So we're going to try to keep everything together on this side of it, and basically just we're going to get that out, and then we'll stop. We'll get the other one to this point, and we just switch them out, clean this surface up, and put it back together. It's been a minute since I've done one of these. I'm pretty sure it's kind of tricky lining up the pawl and getting the chain to stay on and getting it all to go back together very easily. But, you know, I'm not scared to record the first time, and you know, even if it's been a minute. So I'll show you guys how it goes. You guys will also need to take the nut off of this front drive shaft yoke. I don't really know what the correct term for this is, but you go to split the case apart, the shaft obviously isn't going to slide out that way with this bolted to it. So I went ahead and popped the bolt off that, and it's pretty easy to just whack it off with a hammer, and then you can split the case. Okay, you'll go ahead and pop this the front piece over, which we're going to be messing with, like I said anyways. We're going to change this input shaft, and we're going to put it in another transfer case. So once you get it split apart, you'll flip it over, and you're going to take this piece off. Make sure when you put it back on, you put it on the right way. The little oiling port goes on the top. The reason why you need to take this off is there's a snap ring right here. So take yourself a pair of snap ring pliers and pop that off. We got the snap ring off. Once you take that smaller snap ring off, this will actually just fall out. This will be the side we're looking at inside here, and then it'll actually just fall out to the bottom once you do that. Be careful to keep this together, this pawl, and you know, make sure everything's in good shape. If things broken, it's worth go ahead and ordering it and just, you know, waiting a little bit to put fresh parts in it that you have to take apart. But everything in this looks brand new, so I'm going to stick it back together once I clean all this up. So I'm going to go ahead and get this other transfer case tore down to this part. This input shaft will go into the other transfer case. That input shaft will go into this transfer case. Simple as that. All right, guys, we got this one tore down to the same, what do you call it? It's in the same state that one's in, I guess you could say. I will say there's a lot more difference in just the one-piece housing going between a 241 DLD, which is a lighter duty transfer case, and a 241 DHD, which is heavier duty. You guys can see about how wide this chain is on the light duty version, and if you come over here to the heavy duty version, it's almost twice as wide, which is very impressive and makes me glad that I get to keep mine. When I went to split this one apart, this paw here actually stayed in it stayed in this front piece. It stayed in this part of the transfer case. So there's 3 little pins. Whenever you guys go to split them apart, if it sticks together like that, just keep it in one piece with this spring back here. Gosh, I suck at explaining stuff. There's a little spring, and then there's a cap. It looks almost like a valve spring retainer. You'll just keep that together. It goes the retainer and then the spring. Line it up in that hole and then snap it over these. You'll take the gear and then it'll snap back over that, and then you can get it back in the position to where it needs to be when you go to put it back together. It stayed together on that one, but whenever I took this one apart, it actually was all hanging in the front piece. So that was a little intimidating, but just take your time and you'll figure it out. It's not that big of a deal. These are actually really simple. You notice how much slop's in this chain too compared to mine. I guess it's actually about the same, but yeah, so basically now I'm gonna do the same thing I did on that one. Pop this front input shaft out and switch them out, clean them all up and stick them back together. All right guys, I got the I don't really know what you call this, like a planetary piece. So you get it down to this. This one's actually different than the one in the HD, which I didn't know it was going to be different, but I think I'm still good to go as far as being able to interchange them. Let me get this stuck back in here. But yeah, basically there's a snap ring here, so you'll take the snap ring off. This will come off. There's a couple shims. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these shims off of both of them. I'm going to measure this surface area right here with a pair of micrometers. Like this. I'll show you. And as long as that's the same, I'm just going to put it back together like that. So as long as this right here, this is the same on both of these, which it's the same. So I'm good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'll just keep the shims that were on this one, because there is an extra shim on this one. And then put this one had one less shim than this one, and I'll put it all back together like it was. The only thing that's going to be different are the shafts are going to be different. So, so this one will go here. I'll just straighten out. I'll catch back up with you. I need to get my brain right. Hold on. All right, guys, I got these thrown back together. I got the smaller input shaft for the automatic and the 241 planetary set. I don't really know what any of this stuff's called, so you guys can burn me in the comments, but that's fine. So I got it switched out. The difference in these is this one had this metal shim, and then it had a plastic shim, and then it had another plastic shim on the bottom. This one has the metal shim, and then it just had a plastic shim at the bottom. That is 100% sure how they came apart. These measured the same, the diameter of them, the width of them. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be exactly the same, other than this is just a different piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these cleaned up and stick them back together. Guys, we got the first one thrown back together, cleaned it up real good, put a fresh bead of silicone on it, so it's done. Well, I guess I need to throw this yoke back on it. Other than that, it's good to go. So that one's ready to go in Bailey's truck. Has that big input shaft in it. So yeah, guys, we got both of these put back together finally. Overall, probably took I'd say you could probably do it in a certain amount of time. I'm not going to tell you. I don't like telling you guys times like that. I caught myself doing it a couple times in the last video, so I'm not going to do that anymore. Well, guys, that is going to probably be the stopping point for me tonight. I was going to kind of stretch it out and try to do all this in one video, but I really want to be able to pay more attention to detail and things. Probably one more video before the truck is driving with the 5-speed in it and the 12mm pump. So this truck's, from what everyone's saying, is going to be really, really powerful. So we'll see. Probably tomorrow, you know, what all we get into, what all we can get done on it. You know, we do have other stuff we have to do, but, you know, we're really trying to get this truck done. The transmission, everything is completely in as of now. We got to bend the shifter back. I had the shifter bent up because it was in my Ford. So we got to bend that back, and then he's got to finish putting the pedals in. Also, if you guys were able to make it this far in the video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are just 4 away. I know we only have, what's today? Today is going to be the 29th. We've got, what, 2-3 days until the first year, and we had a goal of reaching 100 subscribers. When I set the goal, we had like 70, and we're almost to 100. So come on, guys, tell someone about it. Tell them to get on our channel, check it out, help us reach our goal of 100 subscribers. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.